Hi, readers. Are you sick of me yet? I hope not. All right, you need to have your reader's notebook again today, and you should have printed out those two poems. There's Ginger's Fingers and The Giant. Hang on to The Giant. We will be using that one tomorrow, okay? So, I would like you to cut and glue Ginger's Fingers into your notebook. While you are doing that, I am going to go ahead and share my screen with you. So today, when we are working on our poem, we are going to be doing two different things. We're going to be hunting for those metaphors because a lot of times poets use figurative language, but we are also going to be working on and digging deep into the theme. Okay, so that is our text structure this week. And we've talked a lot about theme in the past. It's been a while. So remember, the theme is the lesson, or sometimes we call it moral, okay, that the author is trying to relay to us. It's the message. So the lesson learned, the moral, the message, all are synonyms for theme. Okay, now before we start, I just want to say, when we read poetry, we have to be deep thinkers. Sometimes poems are a little crazy and they use that figurative language, and sometimes it's easy for us to figure out, sometimes it's hard. So we have to really dig deep to figure out what they're talking about, what those metaphors mean, and then what the theme is. So as we're reading it, and we'll read it a couple times, we're going to be searching for the metaphors, but then we're also going to be searching for the theme and the details that help us discover that theme. Okay, so Ginger's Fingers. The first time we read it, let's hunt for the metaphors. So when we see any metaphors, we're just going to underline them. Okay, Ginger's fingers are shooting stars. Right there. They are comparing Ginger's fingers to what? To shooting stars. Okay, so that's an example. They talk of adventurous trips to Mars. I'm going to stop you because I want to see if you notice something. We don't have a metaphor here, but look at this. Stars and Mars both what? They rhyme. So let's just put a little R next to that. They have that same ending sound, R's. And they rhyme. That's why we're putting an R next to it. Fingers talking without words, singing when sounds can't be heard. You hearing any comparing one thing to another? No. Ginger's fingers are ocean waves. Metaphor. They talk of fish and deep sea caves. So I'm not seeing a metaphor here, but are you noticing anything? Waves and caves are what kind of words? Rhyming words. Fingers, talking without words, singing when sounds can't be heard. Words and heard, they kind of rhyme too, don't they? Ginger's fingers are butterflies. Oh, what's that? It's a metaphor. They talk of honey, gold, sunrise. Butterflies and sunrise are what? They're rhyming words. Fingers talking without words, singing when sounds can't be heard. So if you notice in poetry, they have paragraphs, but we call them stanzas. So every other stanza, what did you notice about these? They're repeated. Repetition, remember we've talked about that before. When authors repeat things, it's trying to prove to the reader, this is important, this is important. So they keep saying fingers talking without words, singing when sounds can't be heard. Okay, so I want you to really dig deep. Fingers that talk without words. Have you ever seen someone use their fingers to talk? And then a lot of times, these friends that use their fingers to communicate, singing when sounds can't be heard, it's because they can't hear. Do you know what that's called when you can't hear? You're right. That means you're deaf. And a lot of times when deaf people can't hear, it's hard for them to talk because they can't hear. So when they do talk, it doesn't sound normal like we do. So they use their fingers to talk. Do you know what that's called? That's called sign language, right? So this whole poem, Ginger's Fingers, is about Ginger. And Ginger uses her fingers to communicate, to do sign language, right? So let's stop and think here about the theme. Do we know a lot of people that use sign language? It's unique. A lot of people that we know, more than likely, more of them can talk normally, right? They use their mouth to talk. They don't have to use their fingers. So Ginger she's different, right? But what do you think, and is different a bad thing? No, absolutely not. So what do you think the theme could be? Hey, Ginger's different, but it talks all about how she uses her fingers to communicate, right? And also, let's look at these metaphors. So her fingers are shooting stars. Well, that's amazing. Her fingers are ocean waves. Her fingers are butterflies. These are all different things in nature, right? And they're all amazing, beautiful things. So, like I said, sometimes it's going to be a little bit harder to dig in and find that theme. But do we agree that the author is trying to teach us here that being different is almost beautiful? It's okay to be different. It's good to be different, right? So our theme, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Our theme here for this poem for Ginger's Fingers is being different is good and beautiful. Right? Do we agree? It's awesome to be different. And that's a beautiful talent to have. So then we want to come up with our details. What helped us figure that out? In this case, they were pretty much just our metaphors. Do we agree? So when we are hunting for the theme, sometimes we can work backwards. We can start with the theme, and then we can come up with the details that helped us. Sometimes we might be able to pick the details first and then come up with the theme, okay? So our first detail, her fingers are shooting stars. Is that something beautiful? Yeah. Okay. Ginger's fingers are ocean waves. And I probably should have said Ginger's fingers because we should always be writing incomplete sentences. And then Ginger's fingers are butterflies. Okay, so we actually did a lot of skills today. High five on that. We found metaphors. We dug in deep to a poem, and we were able to discover the theme, the lesson, or the moral or the message in the poem. But we were also able to do something even deeper, guys, interpret that poem. We were able to read it and use clues to help us figure out what the poem was actually about. So double high five on that. That is some deep thinking and some hard work. So we will spend the rest of the week working on poetry and really being deep thinkers. We'll be looking for those metaphors. We'll be looking for those rhyming words. But most importantly, our skill this week is the theme. We are figuring out what the message that the author is trying to teach us. Okay? All right. Have a fabulous day. I am done. I promise you don't have to see me anymore for reading today. Bye.